Hey everybody, June 7th, Friday, June 7th, 2013's weekly wrap-up. And to get started here, 2 releases this week. One in the advanced voice course, which was the full diminished arpeggio. This is all notes stacked in thirds. Now, the way I've been introducing the different scale patterns, as you know, has been major, major 7th, dominant 7th, minor 7th, minor 7 flat 5, and then we went to a full diminished 7th chord. That's what we previously did. And now I've added the full stacking of minor thirds in an arpeggio, moving over a much wider range. And the idea here is to really get that sound in your head and in your voice, your ability to vocalize through there. And so anyway, that's step 37, I think, of the advanced voice course was that release. And as promised, the vibrato course. And I did something a little unconventional. I don't know, those of you who checked it out, I always talk about the fact that I play these different instruments, and one of the instruments that I play is an electric trumpet. And it's real easy to speed up and slow down the vibrato and do some fun things with it. So I just figured this would be a great tool here in virtual land where I could play the electric trumpet a little bit and give you guys the sound that you can imitate to speed up and slow down a little bit what's going on with your vibrato, and understanding the idea of really doing that and the why of that. Because I like to point out the fact, again, when it comes to vibrato, that vibrato is like an undulation of our voice box. It's almost like tremors almost that are going on in our voice box. That's what we're starting to figure out here in the year 2013 and one of the things that's going on is that once you get your vibrato going, it's sort of is at a particular speed. Some people have a little faster vibrato, some people have a little slower vibrato. And when you're really not thinking about it and you're just doing it, it just comes in, you learn how to bring it in. You learn how to bring it in, it comes in, and it does what it does. And you can count them, and you can see how fast yours is. I always like to explain when it comes to vibrato that somewhere between 4 and 8 pulsations per second is in that zone of where it's culturally desirable sound. It starts going any faster than 8, and it starts to become a fast tremolo. There are some famous people who actually have a faster vibrato, and some people with slower vibratos. And they're still very famous, and they're even it's even a signature for them. So what's my point here? Well, my point is that once you get your vibrato going, you kind of live with what it does naturally. And whatever speed that is, that's kind of the speed of your vibrato. So what's the deal about slowing down or speeding up your vibrato? You use that for special effect. You kind of have to think about it a little bit, but you can slow it down a little bit and you can speed it up a little bit. You don't want to do that all the time. It's just an effect, and you don't want to use any effect all the time. But for coloration, maybe you want to hold a note, bring your vibrato in, and maybe slow the vibrato down just a little bit or speed it up a little bit. And so that's what we're talking about in this particular clip that's out. It's step 20 in the vibrato course. And we're getting close to wrapping things up, but there'll be a few more clips in vibrato before we wrap the whole course up. And remember, you can go back through any part of this course. There's a whole bunch of different ways, if you have no vibrato at all, to get into your vibrato. And all you have to do is follow the course. You know, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way up to as far as we're going to go here in the numbers. Each clip addresses a specific point in relationship to vibrato. First, if you have none at all, different things to try until you finally find one. I call them easy ins, and I put a whole bunch of easy ins, and whichever one works for you, or a combination of them that works for you, is fine. And you just kind of have a whole library of things to try. Then once you get it, then we have to get into the control of things, how you use it in various different ways, how to really apply it to a song, how to come into a song, maybe put it off the tail end of a phrase that you're singing, or bring the vibrato in the middle, or take your vibrato completely out, or speed it up or slow it down. Again, all for special effect. Okay, so this week's weekly tip. I want to talk a little bit about young voices and what I do with them and how you should handle them, both male and female young voices. Very young children, you have to be careful about this because their voices are going to get stronger. And if you push them or try to get them involved in musicals where they're having to belt or do things that might put too much of a demand on the young voice, that actually can be a problem. What I like to do with the youngest of children is actually encourage them to play a musical instrument. Violin, viola, or cello are great choices because they're beautiful sustains, and in some ways they're very much like singing, and the bowing can be transferred over to the concept of vocalizing long, beautiful tones with bringing vibrato in and those types of things. Also, guitar and keyboards are also great choices because they're chord structure and they have all kinds of harmony, the ability to understand more about vocal harmony and pick away at the melody lines and so forth and come up with different thoughts. Almost every singer at some point in time should spend a little time around the keyboard. They don't have to become a virtuoso or anything, but just the ability to even pick out single notes to melody lines will help them make sure that they're singing the right notes. It's just a real good instrument to get your musicality going. So any of those instruments in the beginning is a good idea, and they're working on musicianship in various different ways with these instruments, as opposed to trying to just sing and belt out and hurt those little tiny vocal folds that are happening in the young voices. Now, whenever I tell this to parents, they always say, oh, but my child just sings constantly all day long, you know, I mean, my child, she loves to sing, he loves to sing, he's just always singing. And my answer to them is, wonderful, let them do that, encourage them, tell them how wonderful they are and be excited about listening to them sing. Give them positive reinforcement. That's what you do to nurture any skill in life. And singing's one of them, but it doesn't really matter. Just nurture your kids and tell them that they're doing, be excited about what they're excited about is basically what I'm saying. And it's better to do that than to push them into heavy-duty vocal lessons. Now, as far as actual true training of the voice, it's not uncommon to find young girls around the age of 10 who can vocalize from a low G or an A all the way up to E flat above high C. So it's a good time to start to get them to get their musicality going again. But heavy singing, it's important not to have them do too heavy of singing, to push too hard through the vocal cords. Hey, I tell everybody that that's the biggest problem. Even more so of a problem with a child who has little tiny, just starting to get mature, growing up vocal folds. So the teachers who are teaching these children have to understand this and be careful with them. Also, when you have a child who has a gift, it's very easy and tempting for everybody, for the teachers and for the adults, the parents, to start pushing their kids into all kinds of competitions and all kinds of performances. And although everyone's getting a stroke and they think they're doing wonderful things, they may be destroying a future voice that could rock the world. So you got to be careful about that. They can vocalize, like I said, they can vocalize quite well from low notes to high notes, but you have to be careful with them and not get into heavy singing. Make everything very balanced, make everything very enjoyable, and get them to sing smoothly and bring in musicality while their voice is maturing. Now, young boys, even more of a problem, because they're going to, their voice is going to start cracking and breaking as they go from a child soprano into whatever it is they're going to become. And nobody knows when they're a child, just like no one knows exactly how, well, maybe today people do know how tall people are going to get, I don't know. But I'm just saying nobody knows if that male soprano is going to become a baritone or a tenor or a bass. And you got to be careful when they're going through voice change. First of all, their voice is cracking, they're embarrassed, they're having all this problem. The biggest thing to do with them is to maintain balance. Sometimes overnight the voice changes, sometimes they just crack along for some period of time, 6 months to a year even, until things start to balance out. You got to be careful with them, because what happens lots of times is that there may be a portion of the voice where they can sort of grab into, but they're not making it their transitions, but they'll have this tendency to grab into this one part that sort of sounds more adult and sing harder, and that pulls everything off balance. You really have to have a good teacher to make sure that all of those things are staying in balance. And again, looking off into the future as to what you're going to do with this voice, not just trying to do something quickly with the voice at the time. Singing songs is okay, but again, you've got to watch out what kind of songs and how much pressure and volume and push and grit you let them grab into in relationship to singing any song. So it's important to teach every single voice. It's a gigantic responsibility, and it's even more of a responsibility when you're working with children. So there's your tip of the week, just talking a little bit about what you do with the young voices. All right, and with that said, I guess that sort of wraps up another weekly wrap-up. So be looking forward to seeing some more clips both in the advanced voice course and the vibrato course next week, and we're getting close to getting that vibrato course done. And that will open the door for other courses and other song breakdowns. So I'm looking forward to getting that one wrapped up and on our website, nice and organized, so you can use that anytime you want.